Thunderstorms never really scared me. Growing up in the Midwest, they were a normal part of life, rolling in suddenly, shaking the windows and leaving behind the smell of wet earth. But after what happened that night, I can't hear thunder without feeling my stomach twist. It started one summer evening when I was driving back home from work. The sky had been clear when I left town, but halfway through the long stretch of highway that cut through farmland, the clouds began to gather, dark, heavy, and fast. The wind picked up, bending the tall grass along the road, and lightning flashed in the distance. I remember thinking I could probably make it home before the storm hit. I was wrong. The first drops hit the windshield like small stones, then within seconds the sky opened up. Sheets of rain blurred my vision, the wipers barely keeping up. I slowed down, squinting to follow the faint glow of my headlights on the wet pavement. That's when I saw a figure standing by the side of the road. At first, I thought it was just my imagination. The storm distorted everything, but then another flash of lightning lit up the world and I saw him clearly. A man, drenched, standing completely still, his face turned toward my car. Instinctively, I slowed down more, trying to see if he needed help. But something about the way he stood there, so still, so deliberate, made my chest tighten. He wasn't waving, wasn't signaling for help. He was just watching. The thunder cracked so loudly it made me flinch. When I looked back toward the spot where he'd been, he was gone. I told myself he must have stepped back into the trees, or maybe I'd misjudged what I saw through the rain. I kept driving, heart pounding, eyes scanning the roadside. A few minutes later, lightning flashed again, and this time the man was standing ahead of me. The same drenched clothes. The same lifeless posture. I slammed on the brakes. My tires skidded on the slick road, and for a second I thought I'd lose control. When I finally stopped, my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I blinked through the rain, but now he was gone again. I didn't wait around. I pressed the gas and sped through the storm, not caring how much my tires splashed or how close I got to the center line. I just wanted to get home. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I sat there for a few seconds trying to calm down. The storm was still raging, thunder echoing over the fields. My house sat alone on a small patch of land surrounded by woods. Normally it felt peaceful. That night it felt like a trap. I ran from the car to the porch, soaked by the time I got my keys out. Lightning lit up the yard, and for a split second, I thought I saw a shadow standing near the edge of the trees. I froze, but the next flash showed nothing. I told myself I was just paranoid. After all, storms can play tricks on your eyes. I locked the door behind me, kicked off my shoes, and tried to shake the unease. I turned on the living room light, grabbed a towel, and looked out the window. That's when I saw the wet footprints on my porch. They weren't mine. I hadn't stepped that far to the side of the door. These prints were leading toward my house from the yard. My throat went dry. I double-checked the locks. Every door, every window. Then I went to the back of the house, where the glass sliding door looked out over the trees. Lightning flashed again. He was standing there. The same man from the road. Soaked, face pale, eyes hollow. He was pressed against the glass, his head tilted slightly, watching me from the other side of the door. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over the coffee table. When the thunder rolled, I turned on every light I could reach. I grabbed my phone, but the signal was gone. The storm had knocked it out. My heart pounded as I tried to think. I didn't have a weapon, didn't know what he wanted, and didn't dare get close to the glass. I blinked, and when the next lightning strike hit, he was gone again. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room, holding a kitchen knife, listening to the storm beat against the house. Every creak and gust of wind made me jump. By morning, the storm had passed. The sunlight looked wrong, too bright, too calm. I checked the porch. The footprints were still there, though now they were faint, half-dried by the heat. I called the sheriff's office to report what I'd seen. They sent someone out to look around, but after checking the property, the deputy told me there were no signs of anyone else being there. Just the muddy prints, and even those, he said, could have been mine by mistake. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But that night, as another storm rolled in, I decided to leave the porch light on. Around midnight, I was half asleep on the couch when the thunder woke me. Then came the tapping. 3 slow, deliberate knocks on the glass sliding door. My stomach turned to ice. I couldn't move, couldn't even breathe. The wind howled, and I told myself it was a branch, maybe something blown by the storm. But then I heard it again, 3 distinct knocks like knuckles on glass. I forced myself to look. Lightning flashed, illuminating the door. He was there again, closer this time. His hand still pressed against the glass, eyes locked on me. His mouth moved, but I couldn't hear the words. He lifted his hand and knocked once more, slower, harder. Then the thunder cracked so violently the lights flickered out. I screamed. When the power came back a minute later, he was gone. But on the glass, smeared across the fogged surface, were the words, "Let me in." I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. By morning, I packed a bag and drove to my sister's place 2 towns over. I stayed there for almost a week. When I finally went back home, everything was as I left it except for one thing. On the porch, just outside the door, was a single muddy footprint. Still wet. Still fresh. The storm that night had passed hours before. If you enjoyed these terrifying true thunderstorm horror stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling tales. When I was 17, I worked part-time at a small gas station on the edge of town. It was one of those places where nothing much ever happened, just the same regular customers, the same smell of coffee, and the endless hum of fluorescent lights. But one night, during a thunderstorm, something happened out in Miller's Field that I'll never forget. It was late, close to midnight, and the rain had been coming down for hours. The radio was warning people to stay indoors because of unusual lightning activity. I remember laughing at that, thinking lightning was lightning. What could be unusual about it? Then the power flickered. I looked outside, and for a moment, everything was lit up by a single flash of blue-white light. The fields beyond the gas station glowed like daylight, every blade of wet grass shimmering. And in that second, I saw something or someone standing out there in the middle of the open field. At first, I thought it might be a farmer checking his fences or maybe some drunk who wandered off the highway. But when the light faded, the figure didn't move. It was still there, just a dark shape against the storm. I called out to my coworker Jake, who was restocking shelves in the back. "Hey man, you see that?" He came over, wiped his hands on his shirt, and peered through the rain-streaked window. "See what?" I pointed toward the field, but the figure was gone. Jake gave me that look the kind people give when they think you're overtired, and went back to work. I told myself I'd imagined it. Maybe it was a shadow or a reflection from the lightning. But a few minutes later, the lights flickered again. Another bolt hit somewhere nearby, and the same electric blue glow filled the station. The figure was closer this time, standing at the edge of the field, right near the fence line. I took a few steps back, my heart thudding. "Jake," I whispered. "Look, right there." He came back, squinting through the glass. "Man, there's nothing." He stopped mid-sentence when lightning flashed again. This time he saw it too. "What the hell is that?" We both stood frozen, staring into the rain. The figure looked tall, too tall, and completely still. The wind whipped through the grass, but it didn't move at all. Not even the clothes, if it had any, seemed to shift. Then the power went out. The lights, the radio, everything dead. The silence that followed was worse than the thunder. We could hear only the rain slamming against the windows and the groaning of the storm. Jake cursed under his breath and grabbed a flashlight. "Probably a blown transformer," he muttered, but his voice trembled. "You stay here. I'll check the breaker." "Don't go outside," I told him. "Please don't." He gave me a half-hearted grin. "Relax. I'm just stepping around back." He disappeared through the door behind the counter. The beam of his flashlight bounced once against the wall and was gone. The minutes that followed were slow, heavy. I could hear my own breathing over the storm. Every flash of lightning painted the world in blue and white again, and every time it did, that figure seemed closer. I wanted to yell for Jake, but my throat was too tight. Then I saw it. Movement. The thing in the field, whatever it was no longer standing still. It was walking toward the station. I stumbled backward, knocking over a display of chips. My hand searched for my phone, but there was no signal. The storm had killed it too. Lightning flashed again, closer now, so bright it hurt my eyes. For a split second, I saw the figure's face, or what was left of it. It wasn't a person. The skin was gray and wet, like it had been out in the rain for too long. The eyes were black hollows, and when lightning struck again, it almost looked like something inside those hollows flickered like static. The front door rattled against the wind. I screamed for Jake, but he didn't answer. The handle turned. Slowly. I backed toward the counter, clutching the flashlight I'd found on the shelf. The door creaked open just a few inches, the wind howling through the gap. Then Jake stumbled back inside. His face was pale, drenched in rain. "The breaker's fine," he said, panting. "But man, there's something wrong out there. I don't even know what I saw." I pointed toward the door. "It's out there. It's coming this way." Before I could finish, lightning struck again so bright the whole station glowed, and for that one awful second, the thing was standing right outside the glass, staring in at us. Jake dropped the flashlight. "That's not human," he whispered. We both ducked behind the counter, praying it would go away. The rain pounded harder, thunder rolling so close it shook the shelves. Then 3 knocks on the glass, slow, heavy. Jake and I held our breath. The knocks came again. And then a deep humming sound filled the air, like electricity building up. Lightning hit the field again, but this time it didn't fade. The light stayed. A constant, pulsing glow, humming like a living thing. I peeked over the counter and my stomach dropped. The figure was still there, but now dozens of smaller shapes surrounded it, rising from the field one by one like shadows peeling themselves off the ground. Each one shimmered faintly with the same electric blue light. Jake grabbed my arm. "We have to go." We ran out the back into the rain, slipping in the mud. The sky above us flashed again, and for a split second I saw the entire field glowing, filled with those things standing perfectly still, watching us run. We didn't stop until we reached the road, where the lights from a passing truck finally broke through the storm. The driver stopped when he saw us and pulled us in, asking what happened. When we looked back, the gas station was gone. Not destroyed, just gone. Like it had never been there. The field stretched empty, slick with rain, the wind howling across it. The driver called the sheriff, and when we went back later that night, the building was standing right where it always had been. But everything inside was soaked, ruined, like it had been flooded. Every piece of metal, shelves, register, even the gas pumps was scorched with strange, lightning-like patterns. Jake quit the next day. He left town soon after. I stayed for a few more years, but I never worked nights again. Sometimes, during big storms, I drive past Miller's Field just to see if the light comes back. And every now and then, when the thunder rolls just right, I swear I can still see a flicker of that blue glow in the distance. My uncle's cabin was the kind of place you only visit when you want to disappear for a while. It sat at the edge of a lake deep in the woods, no cell signal, no neighbors for miles, just trees, water, and silence. He used to go there to fish or clear his head after work, but when he passed away, the cabin sat empty for nearly 3 years. That's when I decided to spend a weekend there. I told myself it would be peaceful, a chance to unplug and get away from city noise. The weather report said light rain, maybe a small thunderstorm overnight. Nothing I hadn't handled before. I packed some food, my camera, and a few books, then drove up early Saturday morning. The first few hours were calm, almost perfect. I opened the windows, listened to the wind through the pines, and even took the old rowboat out onto the lake. The water was so still it looked like glass. But sometime in the afternoon the wind shifted. The air turned heavy, humid, the kind of weight that presses on your chest before a storm. The lake's surface rippled and a low rumble rolled through the sky. I looked up, expecting clouds on the horizon. Instead I saw something else. The storm wasn't rolling in. It was forming above me. Thunder cracked, sudden and sharp. The clouds twisted together in a dark spiral directly over the cabin, as if drawn to that exact spot. The trees bent in the wind, and the air filled with the metallic smell of ozone. I pulled the boat back to shore as fast as I could, heart pounding. By the time I reached the cabin, rain was already pouring down. I locked the door and lit a few candles. The power had gone out almost instantly, though I could still hear the faint buzz of electricity in the walls like static humming from nowhere. Then the lights flickered once and stayed off for good. I tried reading to distract myself, but every few minutes, thunder shook the cabin hard enough to rattle the windows. I'd been through storms before, but this one felt different, like it was focused, deliberate. It wasn't moving across the sky. It was staying right above me. Hours passed and I finally decided to try sleeping. I lay on the old couch, listening to the rain drumming the roof. My eyes were starting to close when I heard a knock at the door. 3 slow knocks. At first I thought maybe it was a tree branch hitting the porch. But then it came again, 3 deliberate knocks, louder this time. I froze. No one knew I was there. Not a single person. My phone had no signal. The nearest town was nearly 20 miles away. I crept to the window beside the door and looked out through the curtains. Lightning flashed, and for half a second, I saw a figure standing at the edge of the porch. It looked like a woman. Her hair was soaked, her head tilted down, and her arms hung limply at her sides. The flash ended and darkness swallowed her again. The next lightning strike showed an empty porch. I backed away slowly, trying to breathe. My chest felt tight, my pulse thundering louder than the storm. I grabbed the flashlight and shined it through the window. Nothing. Just sheets of rain and swaying trees. Then came another sound. This one wasn't knocking. It was whispering. It started faint, like the wind through cracks in the wood, but soon I could make out words, low, broken, almost drowned out by the rain. Let it in. I covered my ears and backed into the center of the room, but the voice grew louder, circling the cabin, whispering from every wall, every window. Then in a flash of lightning I saw her again, right outside the glass, her face pale and eyes dark as the storm. She pressed her hand against the window, and for the briefest second, I thought I saw something like veins of lightning crawling under her skin. I screamed and ran to the back of the cabin, slamming the bedroom door shut. The whispering stopped, replaced by the rumble of thunder so close it made the floor vibrate. Then came a blinding white flash and everything went silent. When I opened my eyes, the room was glowing faintly blue. The rain had stopped. No thunder, no wind, just that electric hum again. The air felt wrong, thick and alive. My skin prickled. I reached for the flashlight, but it wouldn't turn on. The bulb was dead. I looked toward the window. Something was standing there. Inside the room. It was her, the same drenched figure from the porch, her hair dripping onto the wooden floor. But up close, her face wasn't human anymore. Her eyes were nothing but black sockets filled with faint blue light, and her skin shimmered like static. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out, only the high-pitched buzz of electricity. I stumbled backward and fell against the wall. She raised her hand and lightning crawled up her arm like veins of fire. Then she reached for me. The instant her fingertips touched my sleeve, the lights exploded back on. She vanished. The cabin fell into silence again, except for the sound of my ragged breathing. My arm burned where she touched me, a faint red mark that pulsed with heat. I didn't wait around to see what came next. I grabbed my keys, ran through the rain, and didn't stop driving until I hit the main road. When I looked back in the rearview mirror, lightning flashed one last time over the trees. The storm wasn't moving across the sky anymore. It was staying right over the cabin. I called the sheriff when I reached town, told him someone had been outside the cabin during the storm. He agreed to check it out in the morning. They found the cabin still standing, but the wood around the windows was scorched, as if lightning had struck it over and over again. The sheriff also said something strange. The ground outside was covered in footprints. Bare footprints, all circling the cabin in perfect rings. He asked if I'd been walking barefoot in the storm. I told him no. He nodded slowly, then added, "Weird thing is, the prints weren't just in the mud. They were burned into the ground." I never went back after that. I sold the property a few months later. The new owners tried to fix it up, but the local paper said it burned down in another thunderstorm not long after. Sometimes I still dream about it, about that woman, the lightning in her veins, and the way the storm seemed to follow me long after I left. Because every time thunder rolls outside my window now, I swear I hear her voice in the rain, whispering, "Let it in." If you enjoyed these terrifying true thunderstorm horror stories, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling tales.